Hey, loves. Paula here with the Healed Love Languages. I am your nurse, your health coach, and your truth telling big sister. Grab your coffee, your water, your tea, whatever it is that you are drinking today, because we are wrapping up our 3-part series on future faking. If you have not listened to parts 1 and 2, I highly encourage you to go back because we've already covered the first 7 signs and the patterns that future fakers often display. Today isn't about more signs, it's about understanding, because one of the biggest questions people ask me is, why would someone do this? And the second question I hear a lot is, why did I stay so long? Those are the questions we're answering today, because healing doesn't happen when we only understand someone else's behavior. Healing happens when we understand our own behaviors, because that is what we can control. Why future fakers future fake? We're going to start with them. One of the biggest misconceptions is that every future faker is some evil mastermind sitting in a dark room plotting how to waste your time. Most of them are not. I'm sure there are a few, but most of them are not. Some are, many aren't. Some of these future fakers genuinely mean every word they say when they say it. They're excited. They're caught up in emotion. They're impulsive. They enjoy imagining a future. The problem is they enjoy imagining it more than building it. Others are deeply afraid of commitment, not because they don't like you, but because commitment requires sacrifice. It requires closing other doors. Choosing one person means saying no to everyone else. For someone who gets their self worth from attention, they constantly need that validation. That is terrifying to them. Some people future fake because they crave admiration. They've got to have it because they cannot find it within themselves. They love being desired, loved, wanted, needed. They aren't necessarily chasing intimacy with one individual. They are chasing the validation from multiples. And validation can become very addictive. The compliments, the flirting, the not knowing who they are and continuing to build them up before you find out who they are, the attention, the dopamine. Eventually, one person's admiration no longer feels like enough. So they keep collecting people instead of building a partnership. Now, let's focus on what we do and why we stay. Future faking only works if someone keeps believing, and before shame starts creeping in, please hear me. Believing someone isn't weakness. Hope isn't weakness. Trust isn't weakness. Those are beautiful qualities to have. Being a hopeless romantic is not weakness, whether you're a man or a woman or you associate with male or female dominant traits. They're beautiful qualities. The problem is when hope replaces discernment, when hope outweighs that ability to make an educated decision. Many of us grew up believing that love required waiting and patience and tolerating and lies. Maybe one of your parents was emotionally unavailable. Maybe affection had to be earned, or maybe approval only came after achievement. Maybe you watch one parent continuously wait for the other one to change, only for them to get up and leave. Children absorb what relationships look like long before they're old enough to question them. And we do not have courses in this. The only thing we have to go off of is what we have seen. Then we become adults, and what feels familiar often feels safe, even when it isn't. So if we grew up in a chaotic household where love was always chaotic, one was constantly giving while the other one was constantly taking, that is what we learn. We learn that we have to give in order to get. We're not giving just to give out of the goodness of our heart, whether it be physical, whether it be emotional, whether it be financial. If you grew up waiting to be chosen, future faking feels strangely comfortable, even when it isn't. Not because it's healthy, again, because it's familiar. That's one reason healing matters so much. You have to heal. One, recognize, bring awareness to the fact that you need to heal from childhood wounds, and then you need to heal from them. And that is when we will learn what is actually healthy. Let's get into the psychology of hope and why we hang on to it for so long. Have you ever wondered why future faking is so emotionally powerful? And I've covered this in the last 2 episodes of future faking. Our brains are wired for anticipation. We love anticipation. It becomes addicted to anticipation. Research has shown that anticipating something rewarding activates many of the same reward pathways as receiving the reward itself. If you're a nurse, I know you can relate to this. We reward ourselves by how many shifts we work. So we will work those shifts, even if we are worn out, miserable, so tired, just so that we can get to that one reward. We create that hope for ourselves. In other words, sometimes imagining the future feels almost as good as living it. So if we have a very attractive man or woman in front of us, someone we truly admire, maybe because we have been fed the story of who they are and the way that they look and the status that they have, that we think we want to be with them. And then we figure out who they are on the inside and that they really don't mean what they say, then things change. But if we hang on to that hope of what it could be and mean for us, looking for that validation in the other person, then we're going to look for that hope, hoping that they will validate us in the way that we need versus backing away from it and waiting for someone who knows how to validate us in the way that we need, which is through integrity, true character, and accountability, transparency. It's not just what money they have and what status they have and what their position in life is or what they do for their career. Those are important because it can show ambition, it can show drive, it can show their willingness to show up and create money for the household, but it is not the end all be all. It's not the purse that they can buy for you. It's the person that they are when they're with you. So if you hope on those things, material things, outside things, you're going to be fooled every time. Sometimes imagining the future feels good, almost as good as living it. So we'll create this dream, this fantasy in our mind, and that is why people stay. The promise itself becomes emotionally rewarding. The added intermittent reinforcement, just like gambling, just like I talked in the other episodes, that intermittent reinforcement, we get a little bit at a time. This is what we call breadcrumbs. They feed us a few breadcrumbs. And then what they do is they turn around and they back off a little bit, go feed somebody else a few little breadcrumbs. We refer to it as fishing. They'll dip their little worm, get a little bite, see who's biting, and then they'll leave you wanting more because you think, okay, when they come back, they're going to give a little more. And they do, they give a little more, but it never becomes enough. Sometimes they're attentive, sometimes they disappear, sometimes they make huge promises, and then sometimes they pull away. That unpredictability can actually strengthen the emotional attachment if and only if you are not healed. Once you're healed and you pick up on the behavioral patterns and what you were taught love was, you will not allow it anymore. It's one reason unhealthy relationships can feel so difficult to lead. There's an addiction to the intermittent reinforcement. Your brain keeps hoping the next conversation, the next visit, the next promise will finally be the one that changes everything. In that intermittent reinforcement, we create what's called fantasy bonding. There's another psychological concept that when we become emotionally attached, not to the relationship we're actually experiencing, but to the relationship we imagine could exist, we create this hallmark moment in our mind and in our hearts, and it's not truly happening, but we hang on to that moment in hopes that it will happen. We no longer are dating the reality, we are dating the potential. And that is so dangerous for our hearts and for who we are. And this is where it is important to guard your heart until you heal. Because potential doesn't build trust. Character does. Healthy relationships will ask, who are you today? Future faking keeps asking, who might you become someday? And if you can't answer that for the person you're seeing, if they're not showing up today in the ways that is healthy for you, then they are future faking. I love bringing in my faith into this. I know everybody has a different faith, and I know that in each scenario of other people's faith, the one that I know to reference to is the one that I believe. But I know there are similar sayings or similar beliefs in your own God that you worship that will provide you with guidance. The one that I like in the Bible is Matthew 7:16. Jesus says, you will know them by their fruits. Notice what he didn't say. You'll know them by their promises or their chemistry. You'll know them by their intentions or their potential. You'll know them by their words. He said their fruit. Fruit is evidence. Fruit takes time. Fruit grows consistently. Healthy relationships leave fruit with each other. Trust, integrity, consistency, peace. Another powerful verse that I love from the Bible is Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Which means if you're a single mother or single father, you need to guard your heart because you are going to either build or poison your children with what you're exposing yourself to. Same at work. You're going to build or poison whatever you're exposing yourself to outside of work. Same with yourself. So guard your heart. Let God guard your heart until He brings you that person that is going to show up with their fruit and you're going to know them by it. Not the ones that are asking you for pics, not the ones that are, sending you pictures without you asking. All of those things, notice God doesn't tell us to harden our hearts. He doesn't say build walls. He just says guard it with discernment. Guard it with discernment. He tells us there's a difference. A guarded heart still loves. It simply uses wisdom. And then I also want to reference Proverbs 13:12 because it applies to us emotionally when we're in these situations and the truth that it speaks to what happens when we put hope above guarding our hearts and intermittent reinforcement, that addiction, when we idolize it over what God has for us. Proverbs 13:12 says it clearly: hope deferred makes the heart sick. God understands what repeatedly postponed hope does to us. And that's why discernment is an act of self respect and self love. So I know your question becomes, what does healthy love look like? What does healthy love do instead? It doesn't rush forever, it builds trust. Healthy love doesn't overwhelm you with promises. It shows consistency. Healthy doesn't keep moving the finish line. It solves problems together. Healthy love also doesn't leave you wondering where you stand. If you are confused, if you ask and they cannot give you an answer, that is your answer. Healthy love creates clarity. It doesn't ask you to carry the relationship alone, that you're doing all the emotional labor, emotional work, creating all the conversations, initiating everything. It invites partnership. Remember, relationships aren't built by beautiful speeches, they're built by ordinary consistency. 3 questions I want you to ask yourself before you stay in a relationship when you realize future faking is happening. The next time you're dating someone, ask yourself these 3 questions. Very important. Number 1, am I dating who they are or who they keep promising they'll become? Are they showing up in the ways that they say they're going to? If they keep saying they're busy, if they keep making excuses, that's a pattern. That's a behavioral pattern that you need to pay attention to. Number 2, if I removed every promise they've made, what evidence would remain? A few text messages, a few words building me up, but no action? Would I still believe we're building a future if I took all of that away? Number 3, ask yourself if nothing changed. If this relationship looked exactly like this 5 years from now, would you still choose it? Even a month from now, if you've gone a few weeks and they're making empty promises, ask yourself a month from now if you would still choose it. And if you wouldn't, you know that it's time to go. These questions will tell you more than almost anything else. Guess what time it is? It's humor time. With these deep conversations, I always love to add a little bit of humor. So we're going to laugh for a second. Future fakers, and I said this, I think, in a previous podcast, but I just thought it was funny because it's true. Future fakers can plan your retirement before they can plan next Friday night. They have already picked out your beach house, named the dog, chosen the honeymoon destination, but somehow deciding where you're spending Thanksgiving this year is too much pressure. Asking what we're doing on Friday night when it's Monday is too much pressure. If you've ever lived that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't repeat the behavioral patterns of others. Love yourself enough to know that you deserve so much more. You can't fix them. You can't wait on them. You can't stay and make them change. As we wrap up this series, I want you to remember something. This wasn't about teaching you to become suspicious, not for you to become negative. It's about teaching you discernment, to listen. Listen for God. Healthy people make mistakes and healthy people experience delays. Life happens. Healthy people have difficult seasons. Future faking isn't one broken promise. It's a pattern where words continuously create hope and nothing ever happens, while actions never create momentum. Don't fall in love with potential, fall in love with character, fall in love with yourself. Don't build your future on promises, build it on patterns, because healthy relationships don't ask you to spend years waiting for tomorrow. They invite you to build something meaningful today. Until next time, heal, choose better, and love better. And remember, the future should never be the only place your relationship exists. The relationship only lives in someday. It may never become your reality. And you deserve a love that's built on more than beautiful promises. You deserve one that's built on truth, transparency, consistency, and action. If you want to check out more, please look at my new website, paulalobsn.com. Great resources there. I have a new freebie about the 10 red flags that you're not paying attention to. It's on the very front page. You can also find both of my books, blogs, lots of great information on my website so that you can show up healthy in the relationships that you are investing your time and your heart into. I appreciate so much that I get to be a part of your healing journey. Thank you. It's an honor. If you know anybody who could benefit from these podcast as well, please forward them on. Don't gatekeep. Send them to your friends so that we can live healed, loving better, choosing better, and doing better. Bye, loves.